Hi, today we're looking at Kakuro, a puzzle that looks a little bit like a cross between a crossword and a Sudoku. Unlike Sudoku, this the puzzle does involve a little bit of arithmetic. So we're going to look at the rules of the puzzle, how you go about solving one, how you can use our calculator to help you solve the puzzle, and I'd also mention how you can get some of these puzzles completely free to try yourself. So to start us off, we're looking at a simple one-star grid just to get to grips with the rules, and those rules are that we need to fill in the missing numbers. As you can see, we've got some clue numbers already included, a bit like a Sudoku, and our job is to fill in the missing numbers. And we do that by looking at the numbers in black, which are sum numbers, and we need to add up the numbers in the white cells such that they reach the top it's sum in the black cells. So this 8 in the triangle is telling us that this horizontal sum should add up to 8. We already have a 6 in there, so we know we'll be putting a 2 in there, and that will add up to 8. And then similarly, we've got vertical numbers here. So this 9 is telling us that these two need to add up to 9. So clearly this one's going to be a 3. We'll go and put those in a second. There's one other rule to be aware of before we continue, and that is that any given sum can only contain each digit once. So if we look at this 20, for example, we've already got a 3 in there. So none of these cells can include a 3 because 3 is already included in that sum once. And the final thing to be aware of is that when you're using digits from 1 to 9, so even if the grid is larger than 9 by 9, which could be the case in a harder level puzzle, we wouldn't use digits any bigger than 9. Obviously, the harder the puzzles are, the fewer clue numbers you have, the more complicated the sums, the bigger the sum numbers, and the bigger the grids. Those are the rules. Let's look at how we solve one. Well, we already started, didn't we? We started on this sum down here. We know that that has to be a 2 in order that these two cells add up to 8. And we worked out that this one can be a 3. So I'm writing that in now. And similarly, we can work out all of this corner because we've got 2 by 2 sums and we've already got one true number. So we can work our way around, beginning with the 10 horizontal. We've got 3 in there, so we can put 7 here to reach 10. Using that, 7 allows us to solve this 11. We know that we can put 4 in here because 7 and 4 is 11. And in turn, that allows us to solve this horizontal 12. We've got our 4 in there, so we know that the last remaining cell there must be an 8. Let's have a look at a slightly more difficult sum because this is a 3-cell sum, and we've again got one clue number, but there we have 2 cells to solve. We know that we're looking for a sum of 8 and that we have 5 in the sum already, so we need to fit 3 into these 2 cells. The only way we can do that is one of them must contain a 1 and the other one must contain a 2. The only question is which is which. And if you remember, our rule is no sum can contain the same digit twice. And we have an intersecting cell here because we've got our 20 here and we've got our 8 here. And this cell in the middle is an intersecting cell. And this 20 sum already has 2. So the intersecting sum cannot contain a 2 because we will be putting 2 twice into that sum. So therefore, we know that this cell must be the 1 and this cell must contain the 2. I'm just going to solve these 4 cells up here because, again, we've got a couple of 2 by 2s, so we can work out the 15 here. We've got 7, so we know that that must be an 8, which allows us to solve the 30 on 10 with a 2, and that means that we can put a 1 in there. We've got one more easy win on this board. This is this 20 vertical here. We've only got one missing cell. We're looking for 20, and we got 8, 10, 13, 14. So we know that we need to put the 6 in the missing cell. At this point, I'm going to introduce you to our Killer Sudoku and Kakuro calculator. Works for burst puzzles. This is what it looks like. We're going to use that to solve this 21 vertical. I'm sure we could solve it in our heads, but it's a good opportunity to see how the calculator works. So the first thing we do is select the number of cells in the addition. We've got 5 cells here, so we'll pick 5 on our slider, and we'll pick our target sum, which is 21. So we'll go over here, and so 21 from the drop down. This is telling us, first of all the different combinations of numbers that we can use to fill in that sum, given the number of cells we have. And it tells us if there are any required digits, because it is possible there may be a digit that appears in every possible combination, and that can be very useful information to note, particularly in harder puzzles. In this case, there aren't any, but we do have some extra information we can put into the calculator. And that is these 3 digits are already in the sum, the 1, the 7 and the 5. So we just put those in this digits to include section, 1, 5, 7. And that has immediately reduced our possible candidate numbers to 1 set of digits. So they are all required digits because they're the only ones that will fit. Well, we've already done our 1, 5 and 7, so we know from this that we also need a 2 and a 6. It's telling us that these 2 digits must be a 2 and a 6. Which goes where? Well, again, we can use the same thing as before. We've got a crossing sum here, and that crossing sum already has a 6. So this cell cannot be a 6. So it has to be the 2 in here. And put our 2 in there and our 6 in there. And now it's very easy to fill in the last few digits. It's 9. We only need a 3 to add up to that, which amounts us to solve the 11. Can put 8 in there, and then we can look at the last cell here, where we've got 2 different sums to use, and the easiest one is obviously the 6. So we know we can put a 4 in there. And that's it for solve the puzzle. Once again, this was a very simple one. If you want a choice of puzzles like this, there's a link in the description to our written tutorial on our website. And on that page, you'll find a taster download with a few puzzles that you can print out and try yourself or try on a device. And we also include some of these Kakuro puzzles in our free magazine, which you can get from the same website. Again, there's a link in the description, and we put 28 puzzles into that magazine every week, completely free to sign up for that.
Hi, I'm Pete. Don't forget you can get our Puzzle Weekly magazine delivered to you every Monday, completely free. Visit the link to get your copy.